The sun rises over Oakwood Heights, casting long shadows across identical two-story houses with pristine lawns and perfectly trimmed hedges. I have lived here for just over a year, attracted by the quiet streets and proximity to my office. My name is Alex Morgan, and for the last 15 years, I have headed the Crimes Against Animals Division at the County Sheriff's Department. Most people do not know this about me. At work, I am Detective Morgan, the person who ensures that those who harm the defenseless face justice. At home, I am just Alex, the quiet neighbor who keeps the lawn mowed and the hedges trimmed according to regulation. I pour my first cup of coffee and watch through my kitchen window as the neighborhood comes to life. Mrs. Chen walks her perfectly groomed Pomeranian, the only pet allowed in our community due to a grandfather clause in her contract. Mr. Patterson washes his car, meticulously removing every water spot before the sun can bake them into the paint. And across the street, Lily Andrews steps onto her porch, one hand cradling her 7-month pregnant belly, the other holding a small orange tabby cat close to her chest. I raise my mug in greeting, and Lily offers a timid wave in return. She cannot be more than 19, living alone in the small one-bedroom unit that her aunt had left her. The cat, Mittens, I believe she calls him, nuzzles against her neck as she sits on her porch step, soaking in the morning sunlight. There is something about her that radiates vulnerability, like a bird with a broken wing. "They will not last long here," a voice says behind me, startling me as I retrieve my morning newspaper. I turn to find my next-door neighbor, Tom, gesturing toward Lily with his chin. Pets are not allowed, and Patricia Henderson does not make exceptions, not even for pregnant teenagers with sob stories. Patricia Henderson. I have heard that name spoken in the same hushed tones one might use for a malevolent spirit. The president of our homeowners association for 12 consecutive years, Patricia, or Karen, as residents secretly call her, rules Oakwood Heights with an iron clipboard and zero flexibility. "She has documentation," I reply, recalling the conversation I had with Lily when she first moved in. "It is an emotional support animal. There are legal protections." Tom laughs, but there is no humor in it. Legal protections do not matter much to Patricia. Last year, the Gonzalez family had proper paperwork for their son's service dog. They were gone within 3 months, fined into oblivion. I watch as a curtain twitches in the large colonial house at the end of the cul-de-sac. A face appears briefly, sharp features, perfectly coiffed blonde hair, lips pressed into a thin line of disapproval. Even from this distance, I can feel the coldness of her gaze as she watches Lily and her cat. As I drive to work that morning, I cannot shake an unsettling feeling. In my line of work, I have developed what my colleagues call a sixth sense, an ability to detect when something is not right, when danger lurks beneath a calm surface. Oakwood Heights, with its manicured perfection and rigid rules, suddenly feels like a powder keg waiting for a spark. What none of us realized that peaceful morning was how quickly that spark would come, or how explosively the facade of our perfect neighborhood would shatter. Behind every pristine hedge and regulation-approved fence lay secrets, resentments, and as I would soon discover, a cruelty that would test not just my professional skills, but my humanity. 3 weeks later, dark clouds gather on the horizon as I pull into my driveway after a particularly difficult day at work. A case involving dogfighting had consumed my team for months, and today we had finally made arrests. I should feel satisfied, but instead, exhaustion seeps into my bones. All I want is a quiet evening and the lasagna waiting in my freezer. Those plans evaporate instantly when I spot the bright orange paper taped to Lily's door across the street. Even from this distance, I recognize a violation notice. Lily sits on her front step, shoulders shaking, her face buried in her hands. Mittens paces anxiously at her feet, occasionally pawing at her leg as if trying to comfort her. I cross the street, professional instincts overriding my fatigue. Lily, is everything all right? She looks up, tears streaming down her face. They say I have to get rid of Mittens. Her voice breaks as she hands me the notice. But they cannot do that. He is registered as my emotional support animal. I have the papers from my doctor. The violation cites unauthorized animal on premises and failure to comply with HOA Regulations Section 8.3. A handwritten note in the margin reads, "Emotional support animals require pre-approval and board review. No exceptions." "Have you shown them your documentation?" I ask gently. "I tried," Lily wipes her eyes. "Ms. Henderson said the documentation is irrelevant. Because I did not seek approval before moving in, but my aunt never mentioned any pet restrictions when she left me the house. I did not know." Before I can respond, a sharp voice cuts through the evening air. "Ms. Andrews, this conversation does not change the violation." Patricia Henderson approaches, clipboard in hand, designer sunglasses perched on her head despite the fading light. She is exactly as I imagined from neighborhood descriptions, perfectly styled, expensively dressed, with a smile that never reaches her eyes. "I believe there are legal protections for emotional support animals," I say, keeping my tone neutral despite the irritation building inside me. "The Fair Housing Act specifically." Patricia cuts me off with a dismissive wave. "I am well aware of the FHA, Mr. Morgan, but our covenants clearly state that all animals must be pre-approved. Rules are rules. Without proper order, communities fall apart." Her gaze falls on Lily. "Besides, there are questions about the legitimacy of some of these emotional support claims." The emphasis she places on those words drips with skepticism and something else, disdain. She looks at Lily not as a neighbor in need of understanding, but as a problem to be eliminated. "I have a doctor's note," Lily insists, her voice small but determined. "Mittens helps with my anxiety and depression, especially since—" Her hand moves protectively to her belly. "Yes, well," Patricia's gaze lingers judgmentally on Lily's pregnant stomach. "Perhaps learning to follow rules would be a good start to your new responsibilities." She turns to leave, then pauses. "Oh, and Ms. Andrews, your curtains are not the approved color for the community. That will be another violation. Notice forthcoming." After Patricia walks away, I spend an hour with Lily learning more about her situation. Her story emerges in quiet, halting sentences between tears. Abandoned by her boyfriend when he learned of the pregnancy. Estranged from parents who gave her an impossible choice, adoption or exile. Working part-time at a local grocery store while finishing high school online. And through it all, Mittens, the cat her late grandmother had given her, providing the unconditional love and stability she desperately needed. "He knows when I am about to have an anxiety attack," she explains, stroking the orange tabby who purrs loudly in her lap. "He comes and sits on my chest, and somehow his weight, his purring, it helps me breathe again." Over the next few days, I notice Patricia frequently passing by Lily's house, sometimes taking photos of perceived infractions, an improperly stored trash can, a wind chime not on the approved list, blinds closed during daylight hours. With each violation notice, Lily's shoulders slump a little more, her eyes grow a little dimmer. The rain that begins to fall seems fitting, matching the growing sense of injustice building inside me. Something needs to be done before this young woman drowns under the weight of Patricia's targeted harassment. By the following week, the situation deteriorates rapidly. Lily's door has become a bulletin board of violation notices, each one carrying a fine she cannot possibly afford on her part-time grocery store salary. I count 7 distinct infractions, ranging from the serious, unauthorized pet to the absurd, improper placement of welcome mat. The fines total over $800, with a note indicating they will double if not paid within 30 days. On Wednesday evening, a flyer appears in every mailbox throughout Oakwood Heights. Emergency HOA meeting, it proclaims in bold red letters. Agenda: enforcement of pet regulations and consequences for continued violations. The meeting is scheduled for Friday at 7. The timing is no coincidence. Lily works the closing shift at the grocery store on Fridays. This is targeted harassment, I say to Tom as we both examine the flyers in our driveways. She is singling out a pregnant teenager. Tom shrugs, though discomfort shows in his eyes. Patricia has always been thorough about rule enforcement, but lately it does seem personal. Has she done this before? I ask. Tom glances around, lowering his voice despite the empty street. The Gonzalez family with their son's service dog, the Petersons with their unauthorized vegetable garden, the elderly couple who painted their door the wrong shade of beige, all gone within months. He hesitates. There are rumors about others, pets that mysteriously disappeared until residents moved away. Nothing proven, of course. That evening, I reach out to a colleague at work, a lawyer specializing in housing discrimination. The information she provides is clear. Emotional support animals are protected, regardless of HOA regulations. I print out the relevant legal codes, highlight key passages, and prepare to attend Friday's meeting as Lily's advocate. Friday evening arrives, and the community center buzzes with 10. Sion, nearly every resident of Oakwood Heights fills the rows of folding chairs. Patricia stands at the podium, flanked by 4 board members who stare blankly ahead, puppets to her puppet master. Behind her, a projector displays enlarged photographs, all of Lily's house, her cat, her violations. "Order, please," Patricia calls, though the room is already uncomfortably quiet. We are here to address a serious threat to our community standards. As you all know, Oakwood Heights maintains its property values through strict adherence to our covenants. Section 8.3 clearly prohibits pets without board approval. She clicks to a photo of Mitten sitting in Lily's window. This unauthorized animal has been brought into our community by a resident who believes rules do not apply to her. Another click shows Lily's medical documentation with red circles and question marks superimposed over it. Claims of emotional need do not supersede our collectively agreed upon standards. I stand, legal papers in hand. Federal housing law actually does supersede HOA regulations in cases of emotional support animals. I have the relevant codes here. "Mr. Morgan," Patricia interrupts, her voice sharp as a blade. "While we appreciate your input, you are not a board member, nor, to my knowledge, are you a legal expert on HOA matters." "No," I reply calmly, "but I do have expertise in legal protections for vulnerable populations." Patricia's eyes narrow. "This meeting is about community standards, not your personal crusade. Please sit down or you will be asked to leave." Several neighbors shift uncomfortably in their seats. Outside, rain lashes against the windows, punctuating the tension in the room. For 2 hours, Patricia outlines increasingly severe penalties for continued noncompliance, culminating in a motion to begin eviction proceedings against residents with 3 or more unpaid violations. The motion passes with only myself and 2 others voting against it. The next day, Lily finds 2 new violation notices on her door, one for failure to attend mandatory community meeting, another for unauthorized exterior lighting. The small solar path lights her aunt had installed years ago. That evening, I find her sitting on her front steps in the rain, calculator in hand, tears mixing with raindrops as she tries to make impossible math work. Her notebook shows columns of numbers: rent, utilities, prenatal vitamins, doctor's appointments, groceries, and now, HOA fines totaling over $1,000. "I cannot afford both the fines and my doctor visits," she whispers, hand protectively covering her belly. "And without prenatal care," she cannot finish the sentence. I help her inside, make her tea, and promise to find a solution. As I walk home through the downpour, the pieces start connecting in my mind. This is not random rule enforcement. This is methodical, targeted. Patricia Henderson is systematically driving Lily from her home, just as she had done to others before. What I do not yet know, as lightning illuminates the perfect houses of Oakwood Heights, is how far Patricia will go to maintain her twisted version of community standards, or how soon my professional and personal lives will collide in ways I never imagined possible. Sunday afternoon brings unexpected sunshine after days of rain. I take advantage of the break in weather to catch up on yard work, cutting my grass precisely to the 4-inch regulation height. The neighborhood hums with similar activity, everyone eager to avoid their own violation notices. The peaceful rhythm of suburban life resumes, but beneath it runs an undercurrent of tension. Everyone watches everyone else, measuring compliance, measuring safety. The scream shatters this fragile peace like a stone through glass. I drop my hedge trimmers and sprint across the street before my mind fully registers what I heard. The sound came from Lily's house, raw, primal, the kind of scream that comes only from deep terror or grief. My hand instinctively moves toward where my service weapon would be if I were on duty. Lily collapses against her open front door, her face contorted in anguish, struggling to breathe between sobs. "He is gone," she gasps when she sees me. "Mittens is gone. Someone took him." I help her to a chair on her porch, noticing her apartment door standing wide open. Inside, drawers hang open, cushions displaced, a landscape of disruption. "What happened?" I ask, professional training taking over. "I was at my doctor appointment," she manages between ragged breaths. "When I came home, everything was like this. And Mittens." Fresh sobs rack her body. Neighbors begin to gather, drawn by the commotion. Mrs. Chen brings a glass of water. Tom calls out that he will check their backyards. Within minutes, an impromptu search party forms, spreading out across the neighborhood calling for the orange tabby. "Does anyone have access to your house?" I ask gently. "A maint." "An aunt's worker, landlord." Lily shakes her head, then freezes. "The HOA. They sent a notice yesterday about inspection for water damage or something. I thought they would come when I was home." My blood runs cold. "Do you have cameras?" She nods, pulls out her phone with trembling hands. "My aunt installed them after some packages were stolen." The security app shows a clear image timestamped 3 hours earlier. Patricia Henderson using a key to enter Lily's front door. Alone. No maintenance personnel, no clipboard, no inspection equipment. 20 minutes later, the camera captures her leaving, carrying a large tote bag that appears weighed down, awkwardly heavy. The implication hits us both simultaneously. Lily's face drains of color. She took him. She took Mittens. Night is falling as we march across the neighborhood to Patricia's large colonial house at the end of the cul-de-sac. Several neighbors join us, faces grim with purpose. I knock firmly on the door, professional courtesy warring with growing anger. Patricia answers, perfectly composed despite the crowd gathered on her porch. "May I help you?" she asks, feigning confusion. I hold up Lily's phone, showing the security footage. "We need to talk about your unauthorized entry into Lily's home today." Patricia's expression does not change. As HOA president, I have authority to inspect properties for compliance and safety concerns. A notice was provided. "And Mittens," Lily pushes forward, her voice breaking. "Did you inspect him too? Where is he?" "I have no idea what you are talking about," Patricia replies coolly. "There was no animal in the house during my inspection. Perhaps it ran away. Cats do that, especially when improperly cared for." Something in her tone, a slight emphasis, a flicker of satisfaction, triggers every investigative instinct I have developed over 15 years. My eyes scan past her into the house, looking for anything out of place. Through the open door, I glimpse the kitchen, the living room, nothing unusual. Then my gaze shifts to the side of the house, where the garage door stands partially open. "We would like to check your garage," I say, my voice leaving no room for refusal. "That is private property. You have no right," Patricia begins. "I can get a warrant," I reply, the words out before I can stop them. A professional slip, but effective. Patricia's eyes narrow. "A warrant? What are you, some kind of police officer?" Instead of answering, I move toward the garage, Lily and several neighbors following close behind. Patricia hurries after us, protests growing more strident with each step. The garage is immaculate, tools hanging in perfect alignment on pegboards, floor swept clean. Nothing seems out of place except for a large chest freezer against the back wall. Unlike everything else in the garage, the freezer has a heavy box placed on top of it, as if to secure the lid. An ominous feeling settles in my stomach as I approach the freezer. "Open it," I tell Patricia, who has gone very still. "That is my personal property. You have no legal right." I move the box aside and lift the freezer lid myself. The collective gasp behind me mirrors my own horror. There, curled into a tight ball, lies Mittens. His orange fur is frosted with ice crystals, his small body motionless except for the faintest rise and fall of his sides, barely alive. Lily's anguished cry will haunt me for years to come. She collapses to her knees beside the freezer, hands reaching for her cat but afraid to touch him, to cause more harm. "It is just a cat," Patricia says, her voice oddly detached. "It was in violation of community guidelines. I was having it removed to a shelter." In that moment, something fundamental shifts inside me. The line between my professional life and my personal life dissolves completely. This is no longer about HOA regulations or neighborhood disputes. This is animal cruelty, cold, calculated, sadistic. This is crime. This is what I have dedicated my life to fighting. I turn to Patricia, and something in my expression makes her take a step back. "In a freezer, to a shelter." My voice is deadly quiet. "You realize what you have done is a felony." "A felony for enforcing HOA rules. Do not be ridiculous." But uncertainty creeps into her voice for the first time. I reach for my phone, my eyes never leaving hers. "This is Detective Morgan," I say when the call connects. "I need an emergency response team at 1422 Maple Drive. Animal cruelty case in progress. Victim still alive but critical condition. And send uniformed officers for an arrest." Patricia's face transforms as comprehension dawns. "Detective." "Head of the Crimes Against Animals Division for the County Sheriff's Department," I confirm, feeling no satisfaction as the blood drains from her face. "And you just committed a serious crime in front of multiple witnesses." As we carefully remove Mittens from the freezer and wrap him in Tom's offered jacket, I watch the perfect facade of Patricia Henderson crumble completely. Her world of control, of power over others, collapses around her with the approaching sound of police sirens. The veterinary emergency room explodes with activity the moment we rush through the doors with mittens wrapped in layers of towels. The cat's body temperature is dangerously low, his heartbeat faint and irregular. Dr. Patel, the emergency veterinarian, takes one look at the situation and immediately calls for warming blankets, IV fluids, and oxygen support. "How long was he in the freezer?" she asks, professional and focused. "We think about 3 hours," I reply, pulling out my notebook to document everything. Years of training kick in automatically. The freezer was set to 25 degrees Fahrenheit. Dr. Patel nods grimly. "Hypothermia, possible tissue damage. We need to warm him gradually to avoid shock." She turns to her team. "Prepare the warming protocol, blood work panel, and have the cardiology monitor ready." Lily sits huddled in the waiting room, arms wrapped protectively around her belly, rocking slightly. Her face is pale, eyes vacant with shock. I drape my jacket around her shoulders and sit beside her. "They are doing everything they can," I tell her gently. "Dr. Patel is the best emergency vet in the county." "Why?" Lily whispers. "Why would someone do this to him? He never hurt anyone." The question hangs in the air, impossible to answer with any logic that makes sense to decent human beings. Instead of attempting, I make a decision. I reach into my wallet and pull out my badge, placing it on the table between us. "Lily, there is something I have not told you or anyone in the neighborhood." I show her my identification. "I am Detective Alex Morgan. I head the Crimes Against Animals Division for the County Sheriff's Department." Her eyes widen, confusion momentarily replacing shock. "You are a police officer." "Detective," I correct gently. "I specialize in animal cruelty cases, and what Patricia did to Mittens is not just cruel, it is criminal. A felony in this state." A spark of something, hope perhaps, or the first glimmer of justice, flickers in her eyes. "You can arrest her." "She is already in custody," I confirm. "And I promise you, I will personally ensure this case is handled with the utmost seriousness." I step outside to make several phone calls. Within 30 minutes, my team begins to arrive. Detective Rodriguez, my second in command, coordinates with patrol officers to secure Patricia's house. Forensic technicians prepare to collect evidence from the freezer. Our department photographer documents Mitten's condition under Dr. Patel's supervision. "The cat is stabilizing," Rodriguez tells me after speaking with the veterinary staff. "Still critical, but responding to treatment. Dr. Patel says the quick action likely saved his life." I nod, relieved. "Make sure we have detailed medical reports, photographs of all injuries, and get the temperature readings from the freezer before it warms up too much." "Already on it, boss." Rodriguez pauses. "The homeowner, Patricia Henderson, is demanding her lawyer and claiming she was just enforcing community guidelines. Says the whole thing is a misunderstanding." A misunderstanding. I feel a cold anger I rarely allow myself on the job. She trapped a living creature in a freezer, Rodriguez. There is no misunderstanding there. By midnight, Patricia's house has been transformed into a crime scene. Evidence bags contain the freezer's temperature control unit, the box used to weight down the lid, and fibers from the tote bag used to transport Mittens. Computer forensics specialists remove her laptop and phone, which will later reveal searches for "how long can cats survive in cold" and untraceable animal removal. Outside Patricia's house, a crowd of neighbors watches as officers carry evidence to waiting vans. There is shock on some faces, but on others, particularly those who had previously faced Patricia's wrath. I see relief, even satisfaction. Tom approaches me as I supervise the loading of the freezer itself, now carefully documented and sealed for evidence. "So you are a cop," he says, not quite a question. "Detective," I correct again. "I prefer to keep my work and home lives separate." "Not so separate anymore," he observes. I watch as Patricia is escorted to a patrol car, no longer the imperious HOA president but a handcuffed suspect, her designer outfit exchanged for standard-issue paper scrubs after her clothing was collected as evidence. Her expression is stunned, as if she still cannot believe this is happening to her. "No," I agree, "not anymore." Back at the veterinary hospital, I find Lily asleep in the waiting room chair, exhaustion finally overcoming anxiety. The nurse tells me Mittens has been moved to the intensive care unit, his condition upgraded from critical to serious but stable. "He is a fighter," she says with a small smile. As I drive home in the early hours of the morning, the neighborhood looks different to me. Behind each perfect facade lies the potential for cruelty or kindness. Today, cruelty was exposed and confronted. Tomorrow, perhaps, kindness will have its chance to flourish. The county courthouse steps teem with reporters when Patricia Henderson makes her first court appearance 3 days later. News vans line the street, cameras flash and microphones thrust forward as officers escort her from the transport vehicle. Her designer clothes have been replaced by an orange jumpsuit that hangs loosely on her frame. Without her perfect makeup and styled hair, she looks smaller somehow, diminished. I stand at the periphery observing. This is no longer just a neighborhood dispute. The case has struck a chord with the public, the vulnerable pregnant teen, the beloved pet, the abuse of power. By noon, every local news station has run the story, most with the headline, "HOA President Charged with Felony Animal Cruelty." Inside the courtroom, I watch Patricia plead not guilty despite the overwhelming evidence. The judge sets bail at $50,000, citing the calculated nature of the offense and disturbing lack of remorse. The prosecutor, Jenny Abrams, catches me in the hallway afterward. "We are charging her with aggravated animal cruelty, breaking and entering, theft, and filing false reports," Jenny explains. "The evidence from her computer makes this premeditated. She researched how long it would take for the cat to die." "How many years is she looking at?" I ask. "With all charges up to 7, but even with a plea deal she will do time." Jenny shuffles through her files. "And this case may be bigger than we thought. Since the story broke, my office has received dozens of calls and emails." Those emails and calls reveal a pattern stretching back years. Former residents describe pets that disappeared mysteriously after HOA disputes. Others report being driven from their homes through excessive fines and harassment. One elderly couple lost their home of 20 years after accruing thousands in fines for a bird feeder and unauthorized rose bushes. Most disturbing are the reports of targeted harassment against vulnerable residents, single parents, elderly homeowners, families with disabled members, anyone Patricia deemed undesirable for her perfect community. The picture that emerges is not of an overzealous HOA president, but of a methodical bully who weaponized regulations to reshape the neighborhood according to her personal prejudices. Meanwhile, the community rallies around Lily. A support fund organized by Mrs. Chen raises enough to cover her medical expenses for the remainder of her pregnancy. Tom connects her with his sister, a lawyer specializing in housing discrimination, who takes her case pro bono. Together, they file a countersuit against the HOA board for harassment and discrimination. The board members are running scared. Tom tells me over coffee. 3 have resigned already. They claim they had no idea how far Patricia had gone. Did they benefit from her actions? I ask. Tom nods. Property values in Oakwood Heights increased 15% in the last 2 years. Perfect lawns, perfect houses, perfect people. His voice turns bitter. They may not have trapped cats in freezers, but they looked the other way while Patricia drove out anyone who did not fit her vision. The most damning evidence comes during discovery. Patricia's home office yields meticulously documented problem resident files, including one labeled Andrews. Inside are photos of Lily's house, notes on her daily schedule, and a written strategy for removal. Most chilling is a page circled in red ink. Cat removal plan, final notice before action. Note: must teach responsibility before baby arrives. When these documents are presented in court, the gallery falls silent. The calculated malice, the cold determination to target a pregnant teenager as a teaching moment. It transcends HOA overreach into something darker, more personal. Even Patricia's lawyer looks disturbed. Outside the courthouse after a preliminary hearing, I give a brief statement to the press, careful to stick to the facts of the case without emotion. But as I turn to leave, a reporter calls out, "Detective Morgan, is it true you live in the same neighborhood? Did you know this was happening?" The question stops me cold. Did I know? Should I have recognized the signs earlier? The unease I felt that first morning watching Patricia observe Lily from her window, was that my professional instinct warning me? Could I have prevented this? No comment, I say, but the question lingers as I drive away, a needle of doubt among the certainties of the case. Sometimes the most dangerous predators are those hiding in plain sight, armed not with obvious weapons but with clipboards, regulations, and the veneer of respect. Stability. Spring arrives in Oakwood Heights, bringing with it a sense of renewal that feels both symbolic and necessary. Cherry blossoms line the streets that only months ago were filled with tension and suspicion. Children play on sidewalks where once they would have been cited for unauthorized recreational activity. Through my living room window, I watch Lily rock her newborn daughter on her front porch. Maya Elise Andrews was born 3 weeks ago, healthy and strong despite the stress of her mother's pregnancy. Beside the rocking chair, Mittens lounges in a patch of sunlight, fully recovered from his ordeal. The orange tabby has become even more protective of Lily since returning home, and now extends that watchfulness to the baby, often curling protectively at the foot of Maya's bassinet. Patricia Henderson's trial ended with a plea agreement, 5 years, with possibility of parole after 3. The evidence was simply too overwhelming to risk a jury trial. The investigation expanded to include several previous incidents, including 2 other cases of animal cruelty and 1 of elder abuse. The remaining HOA board members resigned in disgrace when their complicity through inaction became public. Today marks another kind of new beginning. The community center hosts the first meeting of the newly elected HOA board, a diverse group including Mrs. Chen, Tom, and several residents who had previously felt marginalized under Patricia's regime. I slip into the back row as the meeting begins, pleased to be just another neighbor again. The first order of business, a comprehensive overhaul of community guidelines. The new rules specifically protect emotional support and service animals, create an appeals process for violations, and establish a community mediation service for disputes. The motion passes unanimously to applause. "This is about restoring trust," Mrs. Chen says from her position as newly elected president. "About building a community where rules exist to protect, not punish." After the meeting, I walk home slowly, enjoying the evening air. Neighbors wave and stop to chat without the fear that once permeated these interactions. Gardens bloom with previously forbidden flowers in non-regulation colors. A group of children draws hopscotch patterns on a driveway without worried parents hovering nearby, watching for violation notices. I stop at Lily's house, where she sits on her porch swing, gently rocking Maya while Mittens purrs beside them. She has enrolled in community college classes for the fall semester. The house now bears a fresh coat of paint in a shade that would have given Patricia Henderson heart palpitations. "How are you doing?" I ask, smiling at the peaceful tableau they create. "We are good," Lily replies, a strength in her voice that was not there before. "Really good." As I continue toward my house, I reflect on what has changed in our neighborhood. Justice is not just about punishment for wrongdoing, though that matters. Sometimes it is about transformation, taking spaces warped by fear and control, and reclaiming them for compassion and community. In my years heading the Crimes Against Animals Division, I have seen the worst of human cruelty. But I have also witnessed remarkable resilience, both in the animals we rescue and in the communities that rally around them. Sometimes justice requires professional intervention, but it thrives on everyday courage, the courage to recognize wrong, to speak up, and to protect the vulnerable, whether they have 2 legs or 4.